that's the prime opportunity to bring your ideas for the street industrial corridor into that process, and we will make sure that that happens. They're very eager to have robust community involvement, as well as involvement from the business community. So that process is going to happen early part of next year.
And I did catch that part, but the part I did catch in the presentation, I heard a lot about development, things like bike paths and stuff on the river, and I didn't hear too much about conservation or protection. And I want to know how much is that going to be included in the plan that you are presenting?
So we have both. We have in the plan, there's a lot of language about improving management and stewardship of existing protected lands. So if that's what you're talking about, we can talk about that. There's also stuff about acquisition of new land. So which.
Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Yes.
A lot of your foreign critics are very excited, but they don't really address one of the main things that we hear about.
Sure. So in the report itself, so we collected snippets here. So in the report itself, there's a lot of language about increasing open space throughout the whole river system.
Not just increasing open space, it's conserving the open space we have.
Both of these are.
The model that they have in Indiana with the Indiana dunes, that you may have industry, but the industry's got certain responsibilities to make sure that they don't, it doesn't intrude on the national.
So I will tell you, improving management of existing public lands is a big focus, as is acquisition of new open space. So they're both accounted for in the full document.
Well, how do you get the school document? Is it online, the school document?
Not yet. We're finishing up final edits.
Why can't we see this document so we can intelligently have input in it?
Sure.
You know, I have a lot of questions. This is a huge region. Now, what bothers me is that the mayor is in control of all of this planning. He has to give answers to the mayor. Now, there was such a thing as an open space reserve plan.
Yep.
Okay, that meant that the park district, Chicago Park District, had two types of parks. One was parks for activity and all of the things that you're talking about, the programming, and other parks like Hedwig Marsh and just along the
They're designated
and
natural
all that
areas.
were natural. But they're not natural areas anymore. They're becoming these recreational arenas. So we are losing our wildlife. For example, I have eagles. I'm monitoring the eagles. The Lake Calumet has up to 12 eagles are seen. They're now residents of Chicago, eagles, bald eagles. They're nesting in the area. I'm monitoring one nest that I cannot divulge the location, but they're nesting in Gary, and these eagles are producing young, and they need this habitat, and they need the trees. They're tearing the trees down, and you want one of their, on the Lake Calumet, there's a wooded island that you want to make a bike path through. So how do we get our voices heard? Because it seems that the mayor has the 5-year plan that he has to preserve these preserves is out the window. The 5 years is over, and now it's all about recreation and exploiting these vacant lands, as they call them, as wastelands, and taking them over and making them recreational and driving out the wetlands. We have bald eagles, and I want to see how we can get our voices heard on that.
Okay, so appreciate that. So the Park District is about to kick off a planning effort for its kind of area park holdings, both to increase the natural areas. They have a system-wide goal of 2020 designated natural areas by the year 2020, which would be double the acreage of designated natural areas they have now. So they're actually looking to expand their designated natural areas. That's one of the reasons they're looking at trying to acquire land from the Port District at the northern end of Lake Calumet for that purpose. There are.
Well,
I'm not sure I.
Let me just say this. I looked at the plans, and they're for development. They're putting stores. We want the land, the Port Authority, and maybe the new director can help us out with that. But in his new appointment, they're talking about making that vacant land for businesses. It's not going to be for natural areas.
I think we're talking about different vacant land.
Well, I think the Port Authority needs to.
It's easier to answer some questions.
But also the point that if you could put a draft on one could make comments, they could just make comments.
Yep.
And then maybe that will enhance this discussion.
Okay.
That's the main thing.
Okay, I will say 85% was in the document we presented tonight, trying to respond again to the identified priorities from last fall's meeting. Many of the folks that are in the room came then, and we tried to reflect what we
Well,
heard
we
at
would
that
like
meeting.
it online.
Okay, yes, sir.
You talked about clean water for the water bureau.
Yep.
Overall goals. What are the
I'm gonna
metrics?
leave it, sorry, the fans coming out.
What are the metrics for defining what you mean by clean?
Clean. So the metrics include everything from total dissolved solids, presence of certain chemicals, things like that. The main driver for water quality issues here and in the Chicago River today is combined sewer. So it's still the case that the drainage sewer, the sanitary sewer, and the stormwater sewers are connected in
And
district.
that is clearly one
Yes.
issue. I know that the city just started disinfecting its water outflows.
Yeah, that's the reclamation
last year.
district.
Right. But, like New Shore water quality along the lake, will there be a process for measuring and posting water quality in the river?
So, one of our vision statements here for 2020 or 2030, I forget which, is providing real-time water quality data throughout the city so that you can get it on the news, you can get it on Twitter, you can get it on the web, it'll be posted in real time so that you'll know on a day-to-day basis, was there a sewer overflow yesterday, so I shouldn't go in the river today, that kind of thing. Comparable to and hopefully better than the alert system we have for water quality along the beaches. So, yes, that is an aspirational goal. I should be very clear, this is a vision document. All of this stuff is aspirational goals, but then we're going to try and work on the details of later. There's a hand back here, and then we'll come back to the comments. Yes, ma'am.
I heard you say that along a lot of the river, there's a concrete.
Sheet pile wall, yeah.
And is there any, I suppose if we have trails,
Yeah.
then that will give access for animals to move back and forth as
Yeah.
well as people. And that would be great. And so is there a thought that you're going to do it intentionally to allow the animals to move about?
Yeah, this is habitat for animals, plants, and people, yeah. So as much as is possible, recognizing that in some places that sheet pile wall needs to stay because that's what's holding the city from collapsing into the river. In some places, it's needed because barges or other boats continue to tie up in some places. But there are definitely areas, many of which are already identified, where some of that sheet pile wall can come out and restore a more naturalized river.
Sort of a somewhat similar thing, is there been discussion of how to get people to these places on some place like public transportation, so that we don't all have to drive?
Yeah. So because of the street grid, many bus routes and the trains already intersect with the rivers. Sometimes there's not a stop, or there's no place to go if you actually got off the bus. So there was a recommendation here about integrating the rivers into the transit system. Yes, trying to make sure that yes, the existing transit system takes you to these destinations, but also in places where we have the ability to create walking or bike trails, or in places where the divvy system is active. Just trying to make sure that the rivers are connected to that whole system. Yes. Thomas and then Wayne.
Yeah, I want to address similar to what Carolyn
Sure.
addressed, is that one of the things that we faced here is a lot of the major projects that have been funded or have been implemented are tourist projects.
Yep.
We had the golf course, we have Big Marsh, we have this idea of doing a ski slope. We have Lake Powell being risen up as the highest priority as making that a tourist attraction. That has not been in any discussion locally as a high priority or even a low priority. And yet those are the projects that are implemented and where these kinds of initiatives seem to feed. And that's where there's a lot of distrust in the community.
So I can appreciate that.
These are huge projects.
Yep.
huge parcels of land.
So I will tell you, since I talked to her about it yesterday, so in this ward, in the 10th ward, Alderman Garza wants to hear all of this and to try and fix this, okay? And I would take her at her word. She's new. She's trying to figure this out. Take her at her word. Talk to her. And the Park District, as I said, is starting this process, looking at all of the